We're visiting with State Senator George Sinner here on the Need to Know Morning Show. Senator, over the weekend, there was news that came out that some folks took a poll and asked about 500 North Dakotans what they thought about certain people for the governor's race next year. And it's the one thing, I guess, that everybody has been talking about most recently with the race on not just the Republican side, but on the Democratic side as well. On the Republican side, it looks like Wayne Stenehjem would be a fairly overwhelming choice. On the Democratic side, your name surfaced as somebody that not only would be a candidate, but had the highest favorable rating of anybody on the Democratic side. I want to just kind of get your take on that. First of all, have you made a decision about if that might be something you want to do to run for governor next year?
Well, as I told you before we started the show, I don't see any scenario where this will work for me in my current. Would I love to serve this state? I would. I'm in public service. I love public service. But I don't see any scenario today where this thing will possibly work for me. So, given that, that's what I'm telling people. I just don't see how it will work. Now, regarding the poll, I've seen lots of polls over the past couple of years. Some of them were positive, some of them weren't so positive, and I believe that polls all depend on the questions. I haven't seen this poll. I haven't seen any of the other questions that were asked. I don't have any idea. So the poll could be perfectly accurate, and it could be way off, for all I know.
What about this situation wouldn't fit you? Why do you say it's not feasible for you?
It's just I am 62 years old. I'm razor focused on getting reelected to the state senate and keeping my job. I have a job. I am not a wealthy individual. I cannot afford to take a year off of work, which I did last year, and try and afford to pay my mortgage, make my car payments, and still run for an office and have a job when I get done. I can't expect my employer to do that. I'm not even going to ask them because I have work to do. And that work has to come number one. My family has to come number one right now.
But you have the energy of about a 32-year-old. You say you're 62, but you've got a lot of energy, and you look like a young guy. It looks like you've got all kinds of vim and vigor inside you. You sure you couldn't find the
my mother has terrific genes, and so yes, I feel good. I'm healthy, and I do have a lot of vigor.
Now, other people could raise money for you, so you wouldn't have to come up with the whole thing or spend all the time fundraising on your own.
Are you signing that? Are you signing up? Well, let me know. You can start a fund.
I have enough here probably to get you your first postage stamp. That's about all that I can help you out with, probably.
Not even a coffee.
You better ask for a raise. I'll promote that, by the way.
I'm with you on that, by the way. I'm not sure who I talked to around here to get that done. We'll have to figure that out. So not interested. That's what I hear. It just sounds like it just isn't a fit for you right now.
That's right.
Yeah. You've completely ruled it out.
At this stage, I've completely ruled it out.
So who, if not you, who?
I don't know.
Who on the Democratic side?
I haven't even looked at the list. I'd like to see Earl Pomeroy step up.
I was just going to ask you, how about
but
someone
I
like
haven't
Earl
spoken
Pomeroy?
with Earl. Kent Conrad. But what are the chances that somebody retired living in Washington, D.C., that has a home here will come back and run for this office? Two very popular public servants that serve the state well. I'd love to see either one of them do it. But
someone's got to do it. Question is who?
Someone has to do it. I don't know who that's going to be.
If you had to bet $1, any idea who might end up being the nominee on that?
I have no idea. I have no idea.
Yeah. Well, we'll find out in the days ahead. There are some people that are rumored. Do you think, will there be a third party? Some have said maybe Doug Burgum gets in as an independent. Will there be a third party, do you think?
Well, I think if Doug Burgum decides he wants to run, Doug Burgum could be the only other one. The Democrats may not nominate somebody. I don't know that. If Doug wants to step up and run, God bless him. I think he'd be a terrific public servant.
Is it possible? You just blew my mind a minute ago there when you said the Democrats may not nominate anybody.
They might not. Who knows? If you just never know. That's a possibility, is it not? It's just like,
I guess so.
I mean, who's going to step up and run against Senator Hoeven with an 80% approval rating? Who's going to give 6 to 8 months of their life to lose the race?
Well, Hoeven's probably not going to come back, but Stenehjem is probably the one on the Republican side.
But Hoeven is up this year too. Hoban is
Oh, I
up in
see what you're saying,
2016
yeah,
too.
for Senate,
So
yeah,
somebody
US
has to run. I mean,
How did the Democrats get some candidates in the pile? It seems like we talked about two possible races now where there's nobody available. How does that change?
I don't know that. We just keep working and being the loyal opposition in the state legislature. And I think the public's perception of the legislature may change over the next 2 to 4 years if our economy changes. I read a story in Bloomberg a week ago that predicted $20 oil in October and low oil prices below $40 for the next 15 years. That's going to raise havoc in this state. Mm-hmm. That's going to raise real havoc. And if that happens, we're going to have bond payments that might not get made. We're going to have to figure some other things out. People will say, maybe we need some different leadership. That's what happened in 1984. After 1980, when the state passed Measure 6 and the legislature came in 1981 and cut every tax across the board, and the state was broke in 2 years because the oil markets fell apart. And what happened in 1984 was the Democrats took over the House in the 82 election, took over almost every state office in 84 because people wanted to change. Now, I don't think we're going to take over the state legislature like we did then because we only elect half the House now. We're only going to elect the even number districts in 16 and the other ones in 18. Mm-hmm. The scenario has changed. But I do think that people will say, wow, we need to do something different. If property taxes have to go back up 20%, what are you going to say?
There will be a lot of people that are going to say, I don't like that idea.
No. Mm-hmm. When we've cut corporate income taxes, we've cut taxes across the board. I voted for these taxes, but I voted for them. I'll be honest. I voted for some of them reluctantly, knowing that this scenario is possible.
No, I wouldn't either. Okay, so you want to say one other thing there, Wayne?
No, you want to talk about the BLM fracking rules?
Yeah, before I get there, I just wanted to ask you, so if this ends up at the Supreme Court like you predicted will, what happens between now and then?
Well, at least for the 13 states that are part of our coalition, assuming that nobody overturns that temporary injunction, the rule will not be in effect in our state.
Is there any danger of the temporary injunction being overturned?
There's always that possibility. I assume that the EPA will come in and they'll ask that it be overturned, but I think in the meantime, we've got a good case. The judge, even in his ruling issuing the temporary injunction, said the state of North Dakota has a significant chance of success on the merits. That's one of the findings that they are to consider. How likely are you to win? And he said there's a significant likelihood that we will win when this matter is brought before him for a full trial. Wow. That's a good thing. And it also is required that they show that there's substantial harm. And we showed that there are there are millions of dollars in lost revenue to the state of North Dakota, and it's harmful to our farmers, ranchers, our oil industry, and our political subdivision.
Here's my question. Petroleum Council Board of Directors decided to pursue litigation against the BLM and came out of that meeting basically saying we are under assault. I mean, it is just at every turn, everywhere you look. And you're obviously describing an effort necessary because of waters of the U.S. Is this the new normal? Is this literally how the state of North Dakota, because it's an energy state, and the industry itself is going to have to operate to plan on lawsuits in order to fight this?
Well, I think that it's unfortunate that we seem to be spending as much time in the courtroom trying to develop our energy resources here in North Dakota as we are out on the oil rigs. That's unfortunate. But what we're seeing here in North Dakota, I think as the Obama administration winds down, we're starting to see an increased emphasis on the legacy that the president thinks that he needs, and that is no question involves a assault on the fossil fuel industry. We're seeing that with the Clean Power Plan that is coming out now in the next month or so that will restrict beyond tolerance the development of our coal industry in North Dakota. We started out with what we thought was a very severe restriction on carbon emissions here in North Dakota, and we commented that rule was objectionable. When they finally did announce the rule, it was 4 times worse than what it was that they initially talked to us about. And of course, we'll obviously need to be looking at and are researching, and we'll be ready to pursue litigation on that because we think that the final rule doesn't even closely resemble what it is that they initially rolled out, and that was something we objected to.
Two other quick questions. One, and I don't know if you know this, but just today the McKenzie County Commission came out with a letter of support for a delay in the rule before the North Dakota Industrial Commission on the targets that are currently in place to go in place January 1. You have a decision coming soon. We talked to Doug Goring today. He said, I support this. I don't know where my fellow members are at, but I think this is a good idea. Have you made a decision on that yet?
Well, I haven't because I haven't seen the proposal that has come forth. You know, the industry, to their credit, came in, and they are the ones that came in with a very responsible, I think, plan for restricting flaring in North Dakota. Everybody agrees it's a waste of a resource. We need to do something about it. They have done an admirable job, in my view, of actually reaching those. Now, with the reduction in the price of oil and certainly a reduction in the price of natural gas, they've got some issues, some problems with getting pipelines built, and they're ready to come in with a plan or at least an explanation of what those kinds of problems are. We haven't heard those yet. We'll hear those on Thursday. What I had said, though, from the beginning is that we never intended to etch those regulations in stone, that we understood that things happen. There are things that happen. Anyone who's ever done a construction program or remodeled their house know that things arise. What I had asked, and I'm hopeful that we'll be able to do this, is we will be happy to grant, or at least I will, I can't speak for the other two members of the commission, happy to recognize that that there are eventualities that happen. But in exchange for that, let's look at perhaps an earlier final end game for getting at the 90%, or increase the amount at some point that that is actually reduced in flaring, so that there's a quid pro quo. We're getting something in exchange, and I'm hopeful that that's what the proposal will be. Yes, we have to recognize that things are going to happen. I have said from the beginning, I'm interested in the end game. And if there are hiccups and difficulties along the way, I'm certainly willing to consider that. In exchange, though, if you're amending a contract or a deal, can you give us something in exchange? And that could include an earlier goal or a reduction in the amount of flaring beyond what it was that they were talking about. And I'm rather confident that that is something that we can achieve, because we don't want to make it difficult. We certainly don't want to further burden either mineral owners, the employment. There's a lot of people out there working, and tax revenues, which will be lost if we are so rigid that we are not willing to be flexible and recognize the reality.
Final question, your front page news today, based on the question you keep getting asked over and over and over again about a potential run for governor, and some suggest that maybe you're getting a little more serious about running for governor based on some recent comments. Would that be fair?
Well, you know, I was on the front page of several papers around North Dakota. It's the first time I ever got front page coverage for thinking about something, and that was kind of the news. But it's something to really consider. I know that there was a poll that was reported, and I think there's some controversy about that. But there have been other polls that people might not be aware of that indicate that it seems that my name ID is high. My favorability ratings in North Dakota are fairly high. And I've had, and I'm not just saying this, hundreds of people who have contacted me by email or that I see on the street or that my wife runs into when she's at the post office urging me to do that. And so when you hear that kind of talk, it's unreasonable not to at least consider it. Now, it is no secret. I love the job that I have right now, but sometimes you're called to service, and if that is the case that the future has in store for us, it's something I'm more than willing to consider.
Timeline?
Some say you should have decided yesterday. Others are saying these campaigns are way too long. Take your time. You don't need to do anything overnight. And I think that most people want to know, really, what most people want to know is that you're thinking seriously about it, and that's what I can tell you. But it's a family decision. I mean, it's a life changer, and it's not something that I would do without support from my wife, because you kind of get two when you have a governor and first lady. luckily, I'm married to someone who has a number of causes that she's interested in, and has been historically, from organ donation to working with the FFA as she has. She's involved in a volunteer women's self-defense program and a whole host of things that she could devote herself to.
This sounds like your sales pitch, by the way. It's working pretty good.
This is what she was telling me she could do. This is what she was telling me she could do, because it would change her life. And